Good morning, Skallywags. Spoo here with another Mindless Drivel, and we made it! 2020 is officially over, and we can start fresh and look forward to the future. Hopefully. For sure, 2020 is a year that none of us will ever forget. It saw the beginning of the biggest pandemic since the Spanish flu, but of course that not only carries over into this current year, but now we've got a new strain of it that's even worse than the one we had all year, so we'll see where that one goes. A year that potentially gave us Murder Hornets to worry about. Of course, that one kind of just disappeared just as quickly as it showed up. A year that gave us a lovable zoo-owning, gun-toting, multiple husband-having, country music-making, Carol Baskins-hating, redneck criminal sensation and celebrity overnight in the Netflix instant classic Tiger King. Of course, that also kind of disappeared just as quickly as it showed up. A year that may have actually seen the official death of the movie theater and cinema as we've always known it. One that definitely hurts my heart more than anything. But what you may not be so aware of is that there were a ton of other things. Other potentially life-changing things that made 2020 even more bizarre than any other year that any of us have ever lived through. But none of these things got quite the attention that the ones that we already mentioned did. So I'm sure you can probably figure out what we're talking about today. That's right, Wonder Woman 1984. The first superhero movie where there's no climactic battle at the end. Instead, the good guy actually talks the bad guy into being a better person. But of course, no, I am just kidding there. Instead, today we are going to be talking about the 2020 that you may have missed. For example, did you know that World War III almost started? It was actually the first big news story of 2020. And it all started when Donald Trump ordered the killing of Iranian Army General Qasem Soleimani? Let's face it, we all know I suck when it comes to pronouncing names, so why try to hide it? Via airstrike on January 3rd. To be fair, World War III didn't actually almost begin, but if you were to go onto Twitter or any other social media at the time, you definitely would have thought that it was about to, as it was kind of the first big meme stream of 2020. And I don't know if that is a term that anyone has used before, but I've never heard it before, so I'm going to coin it right now. Hashtag meme stream. Up next, Avengers Endgame predicted the future. So you remember that scene in Avengers Endgame where Cap is talking to Black Widow and he's talking about how he saw whales in the Hudson River? You know, because half the population was dead. Well, back in March and early April when the lockdown started happening, you know, because half the world was dying of COVID, that sort of thing actually started happening pretty much globally. Videos of marine life entering the canals in Venice, deer venturing into the cities in Japan, and my personal favorite, monkeys completely taking over an entire city in Thailand. What you're seeing right now is a video from the city of Lopburi. Usually this town is bustling with tourism. Tourists that feed the local monkeys. And with all of the tourists gone, there's no one to feed the monkeys. The monkeys get hungry. So they went looking for the tourists and looking for the food. After just a couple of months of this, the local authorities actually said that the monkeys well and truly had taken over and that trying to stop them was completely hopeless. Speaking of monkeys, does anyone remember the monkey that stole the COVID samples? In one of Uttar Pradesh's biggest government hospitals, there was a monkey that actually attacked a lab technician and stole the blood samples that he was carrying that were samples from 3 different COVID patients. And what's even better is there's video of the whole thing. I just want to know who the evil super genius is that actually trained monkeys to do their evil bidding. More so, I want to know how many new COVID patients we got as a result of the monkeys stealing these samples. Probably ended up in a water supply somewhere. Another thing that you may have missed, in fact, the entire cosmos missed this one. A star went missing. Stars, you know, giant balls of gas in the night sky. Things that are millions, some even billions of years old. They don't just vanish without a trace. Except Well, this one did. A blue star that's about 2.5 million times bigger than our sun, over in the Kinman Dwarf Galaxy, about 75 million light years away. Well, this star was observed by astronomers between 2001 and 2011. But in 2020, when they went back to kind of take a look at things again, see how they've progressed and whatnot, it just wasn't there. And to add to the mystery, they have no idea where it went. It didn't supernova, we know that much. Usually when a star vanishes or dies, it turns into a supernova and explodes, which of course leaves a lot of remnants and, evidence that that type of thing has happened. Except in this case, that didn't happen. It just kind of went poof. The only theory that astronomers actually have is that when they were looking at it between 2001 and 2011, that it must have been spiking at the time, and that sometime between 2011 and 2020, it simply lost its luminosity. They really don't know if that's the case. That's just the best guess that they have. Next up, we all know that the airline industry has suffered greatly through this pandemic, obviously. With lockdowns taking up a good chunk of the year, followed by social distancing and fear of large groups, there's just not that many people willing to get out and travel. That is, except for when an Australian airline offered a trip to absolutely nowhere and the flight sold out. That's right, Qantas Airlines offered a flight that would fly around Australia to some of the more, interesting things that you can see from the sky, and even flew over Antarctica before returning to the exact same landing strip that it took off from. Visit beautiful Australia from 30,000 feet. Tickets went from anywhere between $575 up to $2,800, and it sold out in less than 10 minutes. So I guess, in a pinch, it's good to know that the airline industry still has some options, I guess. Just see all the beautiful sights, except you won't actually get to go to, the beach or New York City or whatever. You'll just get to see them from up in the sky. Better than nothing. Anyway, so, gay penguins made the news. I know I certainly missed out on that one until I was researching stuff for this video. And I love penguins. But basically, in a zoo over in the Netherlands, there was a couple of gay penguins named Tux and Flipper, great penguin names, who stole an entire clutch of eggs from a lesbian couple of penguins. And they decided they were just going to hatch them on their own. I mean, gay penguins don't have the opportunity to adopt children like gay people do, so I guess you gotta do what you gotta do. And apparently, Tux and Flipper wanted to be parents so bad that this isn't the first time they did this. Last year, in 2019, they stole one egg from a lesbian couple, but that one didn't hatch. So this year, they're like, screw it, we'll take the whole clutch. But unfortunately, this story will most likely not have the happy ending that we want it to. Because the eggs came from a lesbian couple, they have not been fertilized and therefore will not hatch. But there is at least one tiny bit of hope, because the zookeepers do say that if they have another couple of penguins that do have fertilized eggs but won't raise them for whatever reason, that they will take those eggs and give them to the gay and the lesbian couple so that, they will have at least an opportunity to be able to hatch some of those babies and raise them themselves. What else? Well, scientists discovered water on the moon. You know, that big dead rock that kind of floats around our planet? Yeah, apparently there's water there. Who'd have known? Basically, using the Sophia telescope, they were able to find that there is water actually in the lunar surface. Now, it's not like an ocean or anything like that. These are basically tiny glass-like pods that have little droplets of water inside them. And these things are basically smaller than the tip of a pencil. So it's not much, but still an interesting little thing that they found. They have absolutely no idea what the implications of this could be, but hey, it's science! How about 20 people who won the lottery in Africa? So, why is that weird? Why should I care about 20 people winning a lottery in another country? Well, that's because the $7.8 million jackpot was won using the numbers 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Of course, that much of a coincidental sequence of numbers led people to jump onto social media and start claiming the entire thing is a scam, and the whole thing is being investigated. But if you're headed out to buy a Powerball ticket today, why not take a stab at it? You never know. Might be your lucky day. Which reminds me, I actually need to go to the store myself. We've all heard of the Virgin Mary showing up in the streaks on a window or in a cloud or a Dorito or something. Most of those, of course, can be chalked up to pareidolia, which, in case you don't know, is the thing that we all have that we notice faces and shapes inside patterns. However, over in Mexico, there was a picture of the Virgin Mary that showed up that simply cannot be explained. Back in 2007, at the Bella Villa Festival in Monterrey, Mexico, the Virgin Mary was drawn into the asphalt using chalk. But of course, being chalk, it only lasted for 2 or 3 weeks before it faded away. But now it's back, and it's pissed. Not really, but it did show back up this year, and they don't know how. People obviously started kind of flocking to it, claiming, oh, it's a miracle, it's a miracle. The original artist even came back out and confirmed that is his work from 2007. Local officials cordoned off the area, and they ran water over it, and it actually helped it to kind of show up even better than it already had. So that kind of obviously leads people to believe that maybe rain or something caused some of the chalk to somehow resurface. The question is, why after 13 years? Usually the rain would simply wash it away, not soak it down and then bring it back up randomly. But as far as the doubters and theories are concerned, other people that are in the area, they just say that, thoughts about miracles and belief in miracles is what keeps Mexico moving forward. So just let people believe what they want to believe and leave them alone. I'm looking at you, internet. But perhaps the biggest thing that came out in 2020, and I mean biggest overall, including the pandemic, including everything, and yet somehow this went completely, at least almost completely, under the radar, is the revelation that UFOs and aliens are real. How? How does that big of a piece of information, not become the biggest piece of information since information was given to people? Now, to be fair, this one started back over the summer, and it kind of comes in 2 parts, and the first of those did get at least some attention, depending on, if you're getting your news from the internet or from the news. And that was back when the Pentagon announced that a number of videos that have been circulating around of fighter jets chasing UFOs were real. Again, this one did get at least some news coverage, so you may have heard of this part. The part you may not have heard is that the Pentagon Task Force, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, this is the group that's actually looking into UFOs and aliens and all of that stuff. The head of this task force actually came out and stated that the vehicles that you are seeing in these videos are in fact, and I quote, off-world vehicles not made on this Earth. They then went on to say that this is actually the beginning of a new era of transparency where the task force will actually be declassifying and even announcing to the public new findings, new evidence about every 6 months. So we're due for some new stuff here pretty soon, which kind of leads me into this next little bit. So, okay. Devil's advocate here. You could still argue that just because they say that this UFO is real, or actually they're calling them UAPs now, unidentified aerial phenomenon, that just means that it's a flying thing that can't be identified. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's some kind of interstellar spacecraft being piloted by little green men. Well, about that, just a couple of weeks ago, a man by the name of Hayam Eshed, and again, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm sure I'm not, but I try. And just let me read you this man's credentials. He is the former head of Israel's Defense Ministry's Space Directorate for 30 years. He's the former chair of the Space Committee of the National Council for Research and Development for the Ministry of Science. He is a 3-time recipient of the Israel Security Award, and he is a retired brigadier general in Israeli military intelligence. So yeah, his credentials are pretty high up there. And just a couple of weeks ago, he made a series of pretty bold claims. First up, aliens are real. Says they've been coming here for quite some time, that they were just as curious about the galaxy as we are, and they are curious about us, which brought them to our planet. He says that there are at least two governments, that being Israel and the United States, that are not only aware of the aliens, but have actually been in direct contact with them. The United States actually having a contract with them to allow them to do scientific study on our planet, and most likely there are other countries that know about this and are working with them as well. He just does not have confirmation of any other than Israel and the US. In fact, a couple of years ago, he says that Trump was on the verge of admitting to the public all of this, except all of the officials around him were like, no, dude, the people are not ready for this yet. You don't want to start a mass panic. You need to shut your mouth. It's too bad these people aren't around a little more often. But they talked him into, kind of keeping it under wraps for the time being. And the crazy thing about that is, I remember this. Just a couple of years ago, there was a big rumor going around that Trump was about to go public about the existence of aliens. I remember that rumor floating around. So, him saying it could just be a reference to that rumor, could be true. Who am I to say? He also revealed that a group of American astronauts are actually working in a base with the aliens, and that this base is located on Mars under the surface. Like an underground base with American astronauts and alien representatives on Mars. So of course, all of this information leads to more than a few questions. First of all, is he telling the truth? Well, given his extensive career and credentials, he's definitely in a position to where if it was true, he would definitely be aware of it. Of course, on the other hand, Trump not going to Twitter and running his mouth about stuff, that part's hard to believe. It's called a joke, people. Don't get too worked up. But perhaps the biggest thing that does suggest that perhaps it is a lie is the timing. It turns out that Eshed dropped this information about the same time that he started promoting his upcoming book that is also about aliens. So there's that. So are we truly not alone? For sure, no questions asked? For now, that's up for you to decide. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And speaking of aliens, I actually kind of came across this piece of information at the last minute, so I just sort of awkwardly threw it into my script here, so this probably gets a little off topic for a second. Bear with me. But you know that big omnibus bill that just got signed that gave us the $600 stimulus checks and all of that stuff? Well, in case you're not aware, that was actually two bills that were sort of put together and voted on at once to kind of save time and push everything through as quickly as possible. One of those two bills was the stimulus bill that covered the stimulus checks, unemployment, all of that stuff. The other bill covered government funding and a bunch of, government-related stuff that none of us really care about. Well, the New York Post actually just revealed something a couple of days ago that was actually part of that government bill that might be a little interesting. And it has to do with the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. Apparently, according to the bill that has been signed, the task force now has 180 days to kind of basically reveal everything that they have found in the time that they've been, doing this UFO stuff. That puts it at about the end of June, early July maybe. They're saying that these are off-world vehicles that are not made on this Earth. What else do they know? We might find out this summer. But before you get too excited, it doesn't really clarify or specify if that is, reveal that to the public or if that is just reveal that to like other government officials. So it's probably the latter. We probably won't hear anything. But like I said, we are due for another, small information dump here sometime in the near future. So keep your eyes and ears open. So there There are a ton more things that I could go into that kind of make 2020 look like the writers of Black Mirror decided to pull a Truman Show on the entire world's population using unused scripts from Canon Pictures. I mean, even on December 31st, so the last day of the year, a report came out that apparently there's like a group of aggressive squirrels in like 2 different neighborhoods around Queens, New York. And when I say aggressive, I mean like they are attacking people. At least 20 people have been sent to the hospital since Thanksgiving alone because of squirrels. They are literally like climbing people and biting them. They're waiting by people's doors, waiting for them to come outside just to attack them. There's like tons of videos online where this is happening, and it's all been happening over the course of like the last month in these 2 little neighborhoods that are right there kind of close to each other. They've actually set up over 100 traps in the area, and not a single one of them have caught a squirrel yet. So not only are they violent, they're smart on top of it. This is quite possibly like the cutest animal onslaught ever. Just think of like Cujo, but with squirrels. And the craziest thing about it is they have absolutely no idea why it's happening. And really the only theory that I was able to find was COVID. Like, are the squirrels getting sick and it's making them aggressive? Like, is this new strain of COVID that's going around, has it somehow transmitted over to the squirrel population and it's making them aggressive? Now, disclaimer, the COVID theory did not come from a professional. But to be fair, they don't have a theory, so it's the best theory we've got. And let's face it, I like to be optimistic. I love chaos. But like I said, if I were to go into every little crazy story that came out of 2020, then we would be here until 2022 talking about it, so I'll stop here. But what have you got for me? What's the craziest story that you heard from 2020 that didn't make like huge coverage or whatever that I didn't mention? Drop it down in the comments below. And make sure you do check us out across all of our social platforms. We are, of course, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And please, please, please make sure to subscribe because, well, we're back and we're doing it big now. We're back to doing 5 days a week like we did back when we had the show. It's not the show, unfortunately, but we've got a series of 5 different shows going Monday through Friday. On Mondays, you've got the Mindless Drivel stuff where I just kind of talk about whatever I feel like talking about today. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're starting a new series that's called A Series of Enigmatic Events. Basically, it's everything from unsolved crimes, disappearances, cryptids, UFOs, legends, myths, monsters, whatever. If it doesn't have an answer, we're talking about it. On Wednesdays, I'm going to be talking about the best movies never made. Basically, there are about 500,000 scripts that are written every year in Hollywood, and only about 150 of them actually get turned into a movie. So we are taking all of those unmade scripts or early drafts of scripts that are vastly different than what ended up on the screen, and we're talking about those. And I'll go ahead and drop you a little teaser. This Wednesday, we are actually talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the Wes Craven version. And then on Friday, we're going to be doing something called Frivolous Facts. Basically, I've always described my brain as a garage sale at a nursing home. There's a lot of neat stuff there, but it really is completely useless to pretty much everyone, and it kind of smells funny. So I love completely useless information, and why not share that information with you? So that's the lineup, Monday through Friday, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of that good, wonderful, entertaining fun. I'm not sure what entertaining is, but sure, why not? Also, while you're out here on the internet, jump over to www.geekycool.com. It's your one-stop shop for pretty much all things nerd. You got articles, news, reviews, top 10 lists. Basically, if it's like a nerd thing, you will find it there. And they also do a live feed every Tuesday night from their Facebook and YouTube page, and I do join them sometimes as well. So, go give them a like. Tell them Spoo sent you. Tell them we said hello. But that is going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I apologize that it has been so long since we have posted anything. It's been one issue after another because, well, it was 2020. But it's a new year and a new start. So we're doing this. We're going big or going home. So we shoot this from home, so I guess we're doing both. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.